This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Alright, so here's one little project that I have been working on so far this year. It's not done yet, but I'm just putting a bunch of images that I made this year and last year together in this portfolio. And yeah, I'm gonna try to do one of these every single year just to keep track of the images that I make. This one was from Big Sur the other day. Alright you guys, welcome back to the channel, and I hope you guys are having a good one so far. But today you guys, we are going to be doing another what's in my camera bag video, but this one of course is going to be for 2021. Now I gotta say, it has been a very interesting year so far. I've gotten rid of a ton of gear, so a lot of the gear that you guys are going to see unfortunately is going to be kind of, I don't know, lessened. There's not a lot of gear, let's just put it that way. And the reason for that is simply because my purposes for photography have completely changed with, you know, everything that has been going on. And so a lot of the gear I really didn't need, and I've really only kept the essentials and tried to just minimize my kit to where it's functional and I don't have a bunch of random useless gear that just sits and collects dust. Now you guys gotta believe me, man, when I say I got rid of a ton of gear. I really did. This is really all I need, and pretty much everything on here is every camera kit or piece of gear that I own currently. I know if you guys go back 2 to 3 years into the video archives on YouTube, it probably wouldn't even fit on this little island here. So I'm gonna walk you through each of the cameras, some of the purposes, and also talk about why I made these certain selections for these cameras, because a lot of it, as you guys can see, has changed. But before we get started, you guys, there is one thing that is not on this table that I deem that is absolutely essential if you are a photographer in 2021, and that is your own personalized custom website. That brings us over into our sponsor for today's video, the good folks over at Squarespace. Squarespace is your all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. And honestly, you guys, if you are a photographer in 2021 and you don't have your website, you are missing out so much. Head over to Squarespace, man. They have a ton of different templates that you can use to get started. You can make an e-commerce store, but my favorite part, of course, is the ability to have a portfolio for people to view your work. And having your own, you know, custom domain as well with your name on it is just going to set yourself apart. So head over to squarespace.com, you guys, /KingJapes, or at checkout enter promo code KingJapes for 10% off of your first purchase of a domain or website. Huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. But let's jump back in, you guys, to what's in my camera bag for 2021. Okay, so everything is kind of laid out, and I'm gonna break it up into different kind of sections here. I will start sort of with the film items, and then I'll work over into the digital and just talk about the different uses of each piece of gear. So I want to start off really quick with kind of the smaller point and shoot cameras. So inside of this little red case here is a camera that I use on a regular basis when I'm not doing anything of serious work. And that one, folks, is the Olympus XA. Man, if you are a avid viewer of this channel, you don't even need to hear me talk about this camera. It has a 35mm 2.8 lens, really nice kind of rangefinder and short focus throw here. So like I said, the XA is kind of just like my everyday camera. It's on me probably 85-90% of the time. Now moving over kind of into this middle section here, this small group of film cameras is what I keep on a constant rotation for my street photography. You know, you really only need one camera in my opinion for street photography, but if you're like me and you want to try out different film cameras and you just love film, I do think it's important to have 1 or 2 cameras, maybe even 3, to keep in a constant rotation, to make things fun, to make things interesting, and overall just so you're not getting bored of the same old. And so with that said, I have 2 rangefinders here and I have 2 SLR cameras, and I guess we will start off with the SLRs, of course. The first camera here, you guys, is a Canon F1 I believe it's the F1 new. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's the newer version of the Canon F1 in that sense. This camera is a beast. I've had it for years. It's really heavy, and I have two different lenses for it. The one I usually keep on here is the 35mm 2.8. I hope that is in focus. And then the other one is the 50mm 1.4. Yeah, really solid camera all around. In my opinion, it's just one of the more premium 35mm SLR cameras. Some of my favorite photos were made with this camera, if I can get this thing back on. Great shooting experience, a lot of fun, but the other SLR camera is on the Nikon side of things. It is the counterpart, and this one here is the Nikon F3. Now, I just picked up this F3 fresh from a friend that sent it over for a really good price. Now, I will admit, you guys, the F3 has probably one of the best shooting experiences of any 35mm SLR camera. And I have two lenses for it. I have the 28mm lens as well as the 35. And I've been contemplating this year whether or not I should switch fully over to the 28mm focal length. I made a video about this in the past, but most of you guys know I shoot mostly with a 35mm lens. That's pretty much on every one of the cameras that you're gonna see today. But I really have been digging the 28mm look. And so we'll see in the near future. Maybe I'll make a video about it and talk about the differences between the two. If that's something you wanna see, leave it in the comment section down below. Now, apart from these two cameras, the other two cameras I have are both rangefinder cameras. But with the exception of one of them, because the camera is broken. Long story short, in the Philippines, when I was working on that photo essay, the camera that I'm about to talk about jammed up on me. The rangefinder is not calibrated, and so I'm always having to zone focus or scale focus, if you want, with the lens here. And so it can be a rangefinder if you want to call it that. It truly is a rangefinder camera, but just know that the rangefinder I don't use because I have to scale focus just because it's not aligned. So that camera, you guys, is this one right here. This is the Voigtlander Bessa R2A. And this was really the introduction for me into Leica M rangefinder cameras. I made a review on this a couple years back. Definitely go check it out if you haven't seen it already. But what I love about this camera is that it has aperture priority. And so as much as I love, you know, Sunny 16 and manual exposure, something with aperture priority and a built-in light meter, as well as, you know, being a fully compatible rangefinder camera that takes M-mount lenses is incredible. And so I jumped on this guy a couple years back. It's still in my arsenal and I wish I can get it fixed, but I've been shooting it like a scale focus camera these last couple of years. And yeah, this doesn't really get too much screen time on the channel anymore just because it is a somewhat broken camera. Now, the other rangefinder, of course, you guys probably already know, is the Leica M2. And my Leica M2 is really kind of the workhorse of the entire selection of cameras here you're gonna see today. It's the camera that I shoot most often, and it's also the camera that I feel like makes a lot of my street photography work that you see here on the channel. But the M2 doesn't have a built-in light meter, and so to combat that, I have the Kex light meter right here, which sits on the hot shoe right here up at the top. And the lens that I have on this, you guys, is the Leica Summicron 35mm version 4 King of Bokeh. And this one, of course, is from Canada. I'm gonna try to get that in focus, but if it doesn't, you've probably seen it on the channel already. This is kind of the main setup that you'll see me out in San Francisco with if you ever do find me out there. But these two cameras, you guys, are the rangefinder cameras of choice. And the other camera, of course, you guys, that I use for portraits a lot is this camera right here, the Pentax 6.7. And the 6.7 was and still is my dream camera. The 105 2.4 that I have on here on the front, I'm gonna try to get in focus this time around, is gorgeous. It is a dream lens, and the overall quality that this combo can create is insane. If I were to pick one or two cameras for the rest of my life to shoot with, it would probably be the 6.7 and maybe the Leica or the Minolta, just because I know those two cameras like the back of my hand. And when I do shoot landscapes and I want to go a little bit wider than the 105 2.4, I also have the Pentax 55mm f4 for the 6.7 as well, which surprisingly is a little bit bigger and chunkier than the longer focal length 105 2.4. I'm guessing it's because this is a wider angle lens, it needs a larger front element, but great lens, really sharp. If you guys seen the Big Sur video I posted a couple days back, the majority of the photographs were taken with, I believe, Actually, they were split down the middle between the 105 and the 55. But that pretty much wraps up all of the film gear from this first section. The next 3 cameras you guys are going to see are all digital cameras. The first one here is the Fuji X Pro 2, and I have the 23mm f2 lens on this camera right now. Now you guys might be wondering why not get the X Pro 3 or even like the Fuji X-T4. And the simple answer to that is currently I just don't believe in buying new photography gear. The X Pro 2 has 24 megapixels, it has a super sharp 23 f2 lens that I have mounted on top of it, and it does everything I need it to do. Shoot portraits, you can shoot landscapes, you can shoot street photography, you can do anything with this thing. And it has dual card slots, which is great, so you never have to run into the risk of losing any of your images. And this is honestly pound for pound my vote for best value camera in 2021. I think they are kind of on the rise for some reason, but if you can pick an X Pro 2 up for a good deal, it's an amazing little camera. So apart from the 2 Fuji cameras, the last 2 cameras in my entire kit are both Ricoh GRs. Now, the one on the right here is my older Ricoh GR2, and then the one on the left is my newer Ricoh GR3. And I have both of these because Ricoh actually sent over the GR3, but the GR2 I purchased on my own. I really don't have to explain much, man. Smaller cameras, in my opinion, are taking over, and they are great for the size. APS-C 28mm lens. This one has 16 megapixels, this one has 24. It also has IBIS, which is crazy, so you can shoot in low light and still get really, really nice results. And think about it, man. You're taking all of the features from your larger mirrorless cameras and packing them into a tiny, small pocket camera. That's why it's so popular among street photographers, and it's also why it's one of the main tools in my arsenal when I'm out shooting street. So a lot of the times the Leica is there, but the Ricoh GRs really make it hard for me not to pick up and go out and shoot. They also have a ton of really cool presets. I love the built-in black and white filters they have, especially like the high contrast black and white. And the GR3 also has highlight weighted metering, which is really good for that kind of slide film, Alex Webb kind of look if you're going for that. So definitely check out the GRs. The GR2, in my opinion, is still really, really good, but I guess if you have the money, you can go for the GR3. It's up to you. Get whatever you want, man. But that's it, you guys. That's really all I carry in my camera bag. But that pretty much wraps it up, you guys, for what's in my camera bag in 2021. I know it might be a little boring, but I do love watching other photographers just talk about their gear, kind of what they use it for, some of the purposes. And I hope, this video has provided with you with some type of information that maybe you didn't know about prior to watching. At this point, you guys, I want to switch the mic over to you and just ask you what you guys are keeping in your camera bags. Comment that down below. Tell me your kit for street photography, for your film. I'd love to hear what you guys have home in your camera bags. So that's gonna wrap it up for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next one. As always, Minolta Gang.